I'm Clint, and welcome to the Vibrance and Swatches Q&A after show. We just had the new Vibrance episode premiere, and this is the chance for any of you who watched that to toss me some questions or continue the conversation on that topic. Or if you want to talk about things going on in your artist's life, maybe you have some questions tossed to me about that. Well, as we leave a little time for people to jump into the chat, we do have some announcements that we can go over, maybe even kick off some of the conversation. If you are joining in live in the chat, I will be taking your questions during this video. Also, try to put swatches at the beginning of your comment so it will flag it in yellow for me, and I will try to make sure that I answer those questions. Of course, you are feel free to communicate and talk to the other guys in the comments, but make sure comments directed to me have swatches in the beginning of it. Okay, so I'm just double checking. It looks like everything is good over here. We've got a couple of people joining in, and this episode is really going to last until there's not really any good questions or any questions coming in. So we will go through these and we'll see what questions get tossed my way. First up, let's talk about the channel itself. Next week, we are going to be having the Valkyrie and Oni Hunter Concept Art Challenge review. So there's always two stages, the concept and the final. This time, we're going to be taking a look at the concepts. Now, there were 12 people that bought tickets for this event, and they will be submitting their entries to be reviewed, and we'll be going through those. If you're curious what the outline is, this is it right here. Now, only the 12 people who bought tickets are going to have their images reviewed in it because I had to put a limit on the number. We were getting too many people trying to send stuff in. But if you are inspired by this outline, if you want to join in the fun of the art challenge, feel free to follow the directions yourself, follow the outline, and share it on the Facebook group. We have a number of people who just think it's a cool subject, and they're making their own images on their own time, not following the challenge, and they are sharing it, getting some feedback, and it's a good way to create some new images for your portfolio while also joining in the fun with some other people. Doing it all together, you learn more that way. This is available as well as the template for laying out your like your reference images and your studies, as well as some inspiration images. You can go to the Facebook group, and there's a link out there where you can go download all of these files from my Dropbox completely for free. So go check that out if you are interested in joining that. The exact time that we'll be at, I'm aiming for 5 p.m. again, Central Standard Time for next week, but make sure that you are having an eye out on the Swatches Facebook group because I will put the exact time out there. So, ticket schedule change, that is topic number 2. There is a real disadvantage for all of my European crowd and Australia crowd who want to get on the challenges because they're always asleep when the tickets become available. So I'm going to be splitting it up next time. This will be in 2 weeks. 3 weeks. Yeah, in 3 weeks when whatever the new challenge is kicks off. And I will be putting 6 of the tickets up for sale at the normal time, which is like that midday the following Saturday. Then I will put the following 6 tickets up for sale about 12 hours later when it would be a normal time for the people on the other side of the world, so that you guys actually have a better chance of getting a ticket if you are wanting to pick one up. And I will announce, I will try to put in the exact time that will become available again on the group page. New Patreon page. I've kicked off a new Patreon page, as if my life isn't crazy enough. But this one is just mine, all right? It's not Swatches. It's not about Vibrance. It's not education-based. It's just me painting stuff, drawing stuff. And I was thinking about that quite a bit recently that I am always spending my time working for clients or doing education, and I don't have anything against either one of those, but it's been so long since I've just done any of my own stuff because I wanted to do my own stuff. And that's what this one is about. So this is a snapshot of the page, Clint Kearley, patreon.com/Clint Kearley. I have a whole, folders full of ideas and projects, even some like fan pieces that I've liked, different properties, and I want to create different spins on some of those ideas. And you come out there, this is sort of just a behind the scenes, kind of like you're in the studio with me. I'll be giving you updates and showing you works in progress, and I will be creating some videos that will be a little educational, but it's mainly just me kind of talking through the idea as if you were here with me and just kind of sharing my thoughts on what I'm going to be doing with the project, showing you some of my inspirations, that sort of thing, and it will just be as the project kind of dictates. You will get high-res images of whatever the final piece is, and just come along for the ride. I would love to have you join me out there if you like my work, if I've been an inspiration to you. I'd love to have you join the studio out on the Patreon page. Okay. The first image we're going to be going to do is this one. I drew this image a couple of years ago. It was in a playmat illustration, and it was 2 feet wide, about a foot tall. I don't have the actual illustration. Somebody purchased it. It was a commission. But I've always wanted to paint it. So I'm going to do a paint up of this image, and I don't think it'll be line based. I think I'm going to do an actual painting, do a inspiration from classic anime sci-fi backgrounds where you got this night scene of this city with all the glowing lights on it. And I'm not sure what her color scheme's going to be, but that's something we'll have to play with. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I've been wanting to paint that for ages and ages. Okay, next up, groups. If you're not already on the group pages, of course, they're completely open to anyone. It's a great way to plug into the community. For the Swatches art group, you want to go to www.swatches.group. It will link you directly to the correct Facebook page. Just ask to join. I try to go out there every day at some point and, approve everybody to join. Try not to join with your non-personal page. I have some people trying to go out there and they put their art page and they're trying to use it just to promote their art page. That's not really what it's for. But if you're just a normal person who wants to join, I pretty much say okay to everybody. If you want to join the Vibrance group, which is where we focus on the habits, health, and attitudes, going over some of the challenges to self improvement and growth, then that is vibrance.group. We have more dates opened up. If you want a one-on-one consultation with me, video consultation live, then you can go to art-mentor.com. I have Tuesdays and Wednesdays afternoons opened up. Most of my other times are for myself. I have other obligations. But Tuesdays and Wednesdays, try to give you some time there. So if you want either a 30-minute or 1-hour consultation with me, then we can go over about whatever field. Can you just give me some feedback before I try to start, showing my portfolio around, that sort of thing, and happy to help up on all of that. Okay, so that is my announcements. Just taking a look over in the chat to see if you guys got any questions for me. Michael says, Swatches, I don't have a Facebook or Twitter. I know that's unusual. Is there an alternative way? Let's see. Is there an alternative way to get the schedule information, or what information are you trying to get to, Michael? If it's schedule-wise, I tell you what I need to do is also announce it on the YouTube. I can leave a comment. YouTube now has a thing where you can have notes. I've been trying to remember to put it out there also. If that's what you're trying to, if that's the information you're trying to get off of the page, then actually I'll make a note to make sure that I'm putting it out on the Facebook page as well. I mean, the YouTube page as well, so that you can stay up to date on the scheduling issues. Otherwise, yeah, as far as the general sharing of information and community, I don't have another place where you can do that. Natalie says, like, same boat right now. Work. Yeah, I hear ya. Vizonia. Swatches, what are good ways to get out of the perfectionist mentality and keep things loose yet readable? That's a good question. A lot of people on that boat, including I was really a perfectionist when I was younger. And it's really one of those double-edged traits where it can be the thing that really drives you to improve, but it's also the thing that can hold you back and kind of crush your spirit at the same time. So what I've found to help with that is doing more work. If you're hanging kind of your hopes and dreams and all of your aspirations on this one piece that you're working on, then if that piece isn't working out real well, it's a harder emotional hit. And I think that's the biggest thing and the biggest drawback for being a perfectionist is that it is emotionally much harder on you, and you're probably going to burn out sooner than anybody else does. So if you are doing multiple images, say that we're going to be doing, okay, we had the Valkyrie challenge, right? Say that you are doing one Valkyrie image. That's it. And that's all you're going to do. Then you are really going to be focused on that piece wanting to be really good. But if you knew that you're going to be doing 5 Valkyrie pieces, it wouldn't be that big a deal because you know that each piece is not the conclusion. Each piece is just one step to the next piece. And if you can switch your mentality on that, then that should help. Where each piece doesn't need to be perfect. Each piece just needs to be one step leading to better perfection overall. And so the thing that needs to be perfect is not the piece, it's your skills. And just think about, what skill am I working to perfect on this? Not, I'm trying to perfect this particular image. Some exercises I've mentioned before, but they are good for this particular topic. And that is the what I call countdown exercises. And when I originally did these, I was taking a workshop out at Scottsdale Artist School. And what the instructor had us to do, we were doing oil paintings, was they had some simple still lifes set in there. It was like a bowl and an apple and like an orange or something, just a couple of simple objects. And he gave us, I don't remember the exact numbers. I want to think it was like 20 minutes. I think we had like 20 minutes to paint this little still life. Then we took a short break and we came back, and then we painted it again on a new piece in 10 minutes. Then we took a break and we came back and we painted it again in 5 minutes. And when you're working under that kind of time frame, you can't be a perfectionist. And what it's going to do is teach you how to care about the most important things in the image and establishing those. And you're not going to hold on to everything having to be perfect. What you're going to start doing is switching over and caring about the gist. Is the core of the image right? Is the basic layout right? Or the basic values and colors and shapes right? All right. So hopefully that gives you some ideas. And you always want to be riding a balance between you want to push yourself and do better, but don't let it become an emotional weight to you on dealing with perfectionism. Okay, going back to the chat. Let's see what else we got. Esri. Esri, I always think of Star Trek, Deep Space Nine, Esri Dax, and such a good character. I have to rewatch that series occasionally. Always my favorite Star Trek series. Anyway, you probably don't care about that, but that's what it reminds me of. Swatches, is there a way to measure weight on which of your different compositional studies to choose? Instead of relying in what you like, but go with the one that is actually better for delivery. Is there a way to measure weight on which of the different compositional studies to choose? Okay, I guess you're talking about, say you're doing the Valkyrie challenge, and you're creating up multiple concepts, and you're trying to decide which one you want for the challenge. And yeah, it gets to a little personal preference. One of the things that you could think about is, I'll go back to like the mood. Which one is conveying mood the best? And if it's conveying the mood correctly, then that's going to be a good reason to choose that one. And you could kind of think about it as if you want yours to be a very dynamic scene, and this composition, this design has a lot of dynamic feeling to it. So that's a good, that's a good flag for him, right? Another one could be, does it read well? If in doubt, choose the one that reads well when it's small. It's hard to beat that as a good measure for what is a good choice or not. Also, popular opinion is frankly a good option. You as an artist might be thinking about, you think it is clever or is a good use of the storytelling or whatever, but toss it out to some other people. And I've done that before, and sometimes I try to get too fancy for myself. And we as artists like to push ourselves, and sometimes we do. Sometimes we just make it more complicated than it needs to be. And getting some feedback, listen to it. If people don't have a reason to be biased, have a listen to what they have to say, especially if they're other artists and they know what they're talking about. There's a couple of ideas. Hopefully something there might help you make some decisions. Okay, Jesus says, Jesus Misa, this isn't a question, but it's something that always happens to me. With regularity, I forget the things I study. Today, I can study faces, and the next week, I forget it, and so on. I do not know if it's because of the bad way of studying or my bad memory. Mr. Misa, if you haven't watched my reference episode on the channel, or if anybody else has not watched it and they're in a similar situation, that is a good one to go to watch. It's one of my earliest videos, and I'm not that good on the camera at that point, but it's got good information in it. Let me run you through some highlights from that might be taking effect here. Yes, there is good ways and bad ways to study something. Say that you're doing what you're talking about, which is studying faces. A lot of times, if somebody is going to be studying how to draw faces better, what they're actually doing is getting out some anatomy book, let's say Bridgman, Guide to Drawing Life. I forgot what exactly it's called, and then they see a head and they copy the head. And then they see the next one, and they copy the next one. You see, all they're doing is copying, and what they're not doing is actually understanding. They're not bringing that knowledge and really applying it into their repertoire. All they're doing is seeing some lines and copying those lines. So a better way to do it is to get that information and alter it somehow before you draw it. Now, it's not a bad approach, seen like a Bridgman's head. So he simplifies the head and the face down to multiple planes. Now what you want to do is have that on one side, and then on the other side, you want to get some stock photo of, somebody photo, and then draw that other person in the same way that he drew, Bridgman drew his. So the same way that he broke down the forms of the face and the angles, you want to use those, but find those same forms and angles on this subject and draw it from that pose of that person. So that's going to make 10 times more retention in your mind of that information. And it's also going to make it more applicable in the future. What you're having to do is get that information and understand it to the point that you can apply it to something else, immediately apply it. It's going to be so much better for you. I think copying is the biggest thing that's holding people back from getting effective studies. And you want to translate that somehow. Even see if you didn't even have that other real model to look at. Even if you just got like the Bridgman's face, and then you drew it in reverse. So instead of facing left, you draw it facing right. It's enough of a change that it forces your mind to have to actually think about what it's doing. Anyway, that's a good tip. If you haven't started doing that, try that one, and then let me know how that's working for you. Avatar, nope, that's not right. Avidity. There's probably a better way to say that. Avidity. I'm just guessing. I'm struggling with studying an image, then applying it. I would love to hear, to have a video of what you all consider and apply when doing a study. Have you considered doing a video like that? Well, it's kind of what we talked about there. Struggling with studying an image and then applying it. Let's see. I mean, that's definitely one approach. Is you want to rarely, if you're studying, do you actually want to copy the thing that you see? Now, there are times that you actually want to do that. So if you're doing like a classical cast drawing where you're doing a very, very precise graphite charcoal copy of a plaster head, sculpture, and it's all about just learning to pick up on all the variances of angles and values and that sort of thing. That is good for honing your observation skills and your accuracy, but it's not going to do a lot for instilling knowledge and understanding that you can apply on imaginative pieces. If you haven't watched my anatomy series, I think it was on the last episode that I kind of talk about how to practice drawing people. And, that's one of the approaches is you get whatever your figure reference is, and then you draw it, but you don't draw it as you see it. You draw the skeleton of that pose, or you draw the 3D forms of that pose, or you draw that pose with contour lines, forcing you to think about the volume of how all the pieces are, turning and bending and foreshortening and that sort of thing. Something else you could do is you see a pose and then you draw that pose from a slightly different angle. And that requires you to actually understand the volumes and the forms going on. And that can be a real brain teaser, but it's a good one for practicing. But doing just good study practices, that's a good suggestion for a video topic. I'll have to think about that. Now, I have announced it, which is I am in the beginning stages of working on a proper art course. It's right now aiming to be an 8-week course, which you would have daily exercises or weekday exercises. And I'm brainstorming a lot of different things that you could be doing and different ways to learn it. I'm trying to approach the exercises so that you're learning the same thing like 3 different ways, so it really gets stuck in there and you understand it well. But I'll see about maybe making a video just highlighting some of those ideas. Yes, Dax the Symbiote, Ezri Dax. Well, the first Dax was, I'm not Ezri. Ezri was the one that came in the last season. Jadzia was the first one that you'd meet. But anyway, Ezri says, I forgot to ask, do you require the challenge images to be created in Photoshop only, or could it be created in Procreate or Clip Studio? Oh no, it's up to you. You can certainly use a different program, or you can do a traditional image. The main thing for me is try to send in something that is similar to the template. Now, if you don't have Photoshop, if you can kind of recreate the template or something similar to it when you submit it in, that's acceptable too. The main thing is I want to be able to see, 3 of your composition studies, 3 of your value studies, 3 of your color studies, and your main references for the environment and the poses and the characters image. Because the more background that I can see where you're getting your inspiration from, the more it can help. And also, I can look at your process from composition study to values to colors to where you are on your full concept, and figure out kind of maybe where you're going off or where you could fine tune your process. So that's what's going on. Ezri, I only got to know Ezri Dags. Yeah, Ezra, they got a good actress for her. I liked her. She was a fun character. Of course, Jadzia was awesome too. Anyway, and as there's not another question, I'm gonna just kill a minute and say, hey, Star Trek Picard series, of course, is on the horizon. I cannot believe and never thought that Sir Patrick Stewart would return to the role of Jean-Luc Picard, but I am really looking forward to it. I have very fond memories of watching The Next Generation, coming on TV. It was the UPN network, wasn't it? Back when it was coming out originally. I mean, I remember my whole family, mom, dad, and my one brother and I. It's not like we had a big family, but that's something we all like. We all liked Star Trek, and just good memories of us. It was 9 p.m. It was time to sit down and watch, Next Generation and see what kind of problem they get into and what kind of ingenuity they're going to have to pull them out of that. But Jean-Luc is such a great character, and he's one of those characters that you just don't get anymore on TV. He's one of these guys that I was reading about stories and characters and kind of like the what do they call it, the hero's journey. That's what it's called, the hero's journey. And that there's one of the kinds of hero's journey where they don't really have a journey. Paragon, that's it. Your character is a paragon. Your character basically starts as somebody who has already reached kind of, top level. He's already maxed out his humanity and his skills. And so it's less about him developing than it's how the world kind of has to fit around this guy, how he influences the world around him. And that's what I love about Jean-Luc. Jean-Luc is a man of great humanity and of morality and philosophy, and just really, really skilled and good at what he did, which he was basically a diplomat is what he was. And just how does a man like that work in society? And you don't see that nowadays. They just want to see like how flawed can they make your hero, and it fits sometimes, but not everybody has to be an anti-hero. Sometimes you want to see like a good guy, right? Anyway, I'm psyched for it. Unless I've missed something, they haven't said the deadline, the premiere of when that is coming out or not, but very cool. Yeah, you're saying, I wonder how Data is doing. I don't think Data is doing anything, unless you, spoiler alert for a movie that's been out for 20 years, but Data didn't make it. He was replaced in the last movie. Well, he was replaced. They found that other android that was also made by Noonien Soon, who looked like Data. His name was B4. And they downloaded all of Data's memories and personality into B4 because he was blank. So I don't know if they're going to try to play that or not, but I imagine they'll have him in there. Interested though. I'm with you some there, Michael. You say I'm kind of afraid of the Picard series. I'm worried they'll change him like Luke Skywalker was changed. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I am concerned about that. I don't need a mopey, depressed Picard. I don't want grim and moody Picard. No, I'm okay with them starting him at a low point in his life, because they even had something about that on the teaser, about how he led the greatest recovery mission in history, but then he kind of inexplicably retired. And so it's like, okay, yeah, so something's going on with him, and so maybe you pick it up with him kind of in a low point, but they better not leave him there and just usurp expectations. So anyway, Ezra says, Swatches, he as an actor in all levels, I was thrilled to hear his voice in the Castlevania Lords of Shadow series as an antagonist. Yeah, he has done some voice work. The guy has a fantastic voice, which is probably why, he's done really good on stage. I mean, he's classically Shakespearean actor over from England, so he knows how to carry himself well. Vizonia says, I'm not sure if this has been asked before, but what got you into doing art for a living, or just art in general? What gave you that fuel to burn your inner fire? Well, I started art at the same time I think anybody starts art, which is just drawing, doodling as a kid. Nothing serious. There was nothing more than just a kid who drew. Most kids do at some point, but I never stopped. I guess part of it has to go back to my mom. My mom, I don't think she considers herself an artist. I would say that she is artistic. She's creative. I would say she's creative. And she knew some art and had some art education. And so she taught me kind of what she knew, which was enough to make me better, a little better than my friends at drawing. And that was one of those things that helped me stand out, right? That's kind of what I was known for. It's like, oh, have you seen Clint's drawing? Oh man, dude, you're really good at that. And that felt good, right? It gave me something. Everybody wants something, right? And so I loved that. I also just always loved images, and maybe that's also kind of going back to my mom. She made sure that we always had a bunch of books. We were at the library all the time when I was a kid, and constantly checking out books. And of course, most of the time I was just wanting to find great images and browsing through, finding, going through the kids' books and just finding the art that I liked and copying some of that. And so I enjoyed making stuff up, and it's kind of that cycle where you learn how to draw this thing, and you're like, well, shoot, if I can draw that, maybe I can draw this. And then you have a good response to that, and you learn to draw something else, and you just feel like you're continuing, and you're making progress, that you're doing something fun, and it's worthwhile. So when did I decide I actually wanted to pursue it more as a career? The most definitive time that I decided was I was 14, and I entered a art competition for students. And there was a big rodeo show. Now, I was in Texas, so it was like no joke big rodeo show. And it was a yearly one. And they had a art competition for kids who wanted to draw or paint something that was rodeo based. And so I did this colored pencil piece, oh so big. I'm not even sure where that image is anymore. Of a girl walking her horse, and her horse is grazing. And I ended up winning, which was a real surprise because I was going against 18-year-olds as well. And I was only 14. And I won that, and it just made me think, it was like there was 2,000 entries. And it just made me think, maybe I could do this. Maybe this could be something that I actually make a living at. So I kind of told my parents, hey, I'm interested in this. And they were like, okay, cool. Yeah, you're good at that. You enjoy it. Look, whatever you need for your education. And so they made sure that I always had more art books. And if I gave them a catalog and said, hey, can I get this book, and this book? And it was, the art of painting this and how to do this and painting with watercolor or whatever. They're like, yep, sure. And they, thanks to my parents, they always made sure I had it. They always made sure I had the whatever art materials that I needed to paint with or draw with or whatever. And started picking up some education along the way. And yeah, when I was about 19, well, I guess I was about 18, 19, I started picking up some commissions. They were traditional commissions, portraits. I think the first commission was I remember it was a dog portrait. This lady had wanted me to draw this picture of her dog. And it was a soft pastel piece. And really, really cute dog. Big wrinkly thing. And it was about that big, that piece. She loved it. I thought it came out good, but she loved it, and that was always nice. I've kind of bounced around since then. Like when I was 19, 20, took a job doing graphic design, did that for about 8 years, got tired of that, moved over to illustration, doing that since then. That's probably a longer answer than you want, but there we go. Kind of a long story short, I've always loved imagination. I've loved stories. I've loved images that made me, as well, their eyes kind of lighting up when things start making sense, when they kind of level up and they can do something now that they didn't understand how to do, a minute ago. That's fantastic. I love that. Okay, have you had a studio job? What's the reason you're not at one now? No, I have not had a studio job. I wasn't a studio. I worked as a graphic designer, but I worked at a ministry, so it wasn't really a studio. It was just like a normal job, but I just did graphic design. Why am I not at one now? I like being my own boss. I like setting my own schedule. I like having some say in what art I'm making and what I'm not. And if I get tired of a certain subject, I can choose to not, keep doing that. Where a studio job, it's not one is better than the other. And don't get that at all. Some people don't like the entrepreneurial, side of being an independent illustrator, and because they don't want to have to worry about where's that next project coming from, where's that next paycheck coming from, and they want to know that they're going to get paid on a certain day, every time that day rolls around. And that's not the freelance illustrator. That's not, it's more up in the air than that. and you have to be able to get out there and make things happen. And nobody is just lining up to give you work. There's no promise of work next week. And of course, you also don't get dental and all the rest. So, yeah, I would consider it. Maybe if, Wetter Workshop said, hey, Clint, you're interested in coming down here and doing some concept art for us, I would seriously consider it. I really would. But right now, I'm pretty happy with what I'm doing. Michael says, I have a framed photo of my first ever painting as a child. That's fantastic. I think that we need those sorts of things to remind us. Kind of even goes back to what the Vibrance episode was about. It's remembering and kind of like, how does Brendan say it? Honoring the journey, honoring the struggle. One or the other. I can't remember which one he says. Honor the struggle, I think, is what his phrase is. And you can only really do that if you keep it in front of yourself. Stay aware of what your progress has been. And I know that there are times that I feel like I'm not really improving. And that's the time that I need to go back and look at something that I did 10 years ago, something that I did 5 years ago, and say, you know what, I have. And maybe it hasn't improved, dramatically, but I am more confident in what I do now. I am faster at what I do now. I don't do nearly as much trial and error as I used to do. And I am a better speaker on camera than I used to be. And I know how to, do Adobe Premiere now, and I didn't used to. I didn't know how to run a Patreon. I do now. And I didn't used to know or have any clue about how to run a community, and I do now. So there's all of these things like that people don't think about, where you are really adding and growing in some good skills, but they're not always immediately obvious that those are skills worth noting that you've grown in. So it's kind of going off the other side, but you're talking about your early painting. It reminds me here on the new Patreon. The first goal is, if we get 50 patrons, or whenever we get to 50 patrons, we will go through one or more of my old sketchbooks, and we'll just look at them. We'll talk about them, laugh over them. Maybe there's some good ideas in some of them. I know some of them do have good ideas of things that I wanted to do, but I didn't have the skill or the know-how to pull it off at the time. So maybe we'll find something there and say, you know what, that's a good idea. I should work that up. So, yeah. Kina says, technical advice question. You didn't direct it to me, but it's the last question listed here. Anyone here have an iPad with a screen projector on it? Worth getting? I've been debating getting something like a paper-like screen protector for mine. Well, I can't say that I have. I mean, I have an iPad, but did I say projector? I think you said, screen protector on it. I don't have a screen protector on mine, so I can't really weigh in on that's good options. Amazon reviews are my go-to crowdsource answering for products, so hard to beat that. The Orville is one of the best Star Trek-like shows out. If you haven't checked it out, I am familiar with the Orville, and you're right. It's like as Star Trek as you could get without being Star Trek. It's that very Galaxy Quest. Yeah, the old one with Tim Allen. I haven't checked it out. I've watched some clips. It's not my kind of humor. There's certain humor that I like. That's not one of them. I think they're doing probably what they do really well, but I'm looking for something else. Okay, well, we will just give another minute. If people have some more questions, I will try to address them. Otherwise, we'll wrap it up because that's just, Q&A episode. Of course, I will also be taking comments during the live stream next week on the image reviews. So if you are having your image reviewed during that episode, man, this fly just keeps going right around my head. I don't know why he thinks I'm so fascinating. All right. If you're getting your image reviewed during the episode, absolutely feel free to jump in the chat and you can throw me some questions or comments about your piece when it's getting reviewed. That's a good time to get some feedback. Maybe you want to, have something in particular be covered, but also on your template, don't forget that you can put in the comment into the text box if there is something particular that you would like me to address. I miss watching these live streams. It's been a while. I don't visit Facebook. Have I thought about Discord? Yeah, I opened a Discord a couple of years ago and then promptly forgot about it. So I could go open that up and see if, I don't know, is it even open anymore? If you just leave a Discord server, does it keep going? It's something I would look into. If people, really interested in that, then I would consider trying to breathe some life back into the Discord. And I would have to go check what the link is to it because I just don't remember. Swatches, anyone else having a difficult time starting the day and sitting down for hours to practice because you can't stop worrying about life and job problems? Any tips? It is definitely difficult to concentrate. This fly is really starting to get on my nerves. There's lots of space in this room to be in, besides on me. Thank you. Yeah, life and job can definitely make it more difficult to do your art. Any thoughts on that? Starting the day and sitting down for a few hours to practice because you can't stop. Just have to approve any link before it goes up there. If there's something that's really bothering you, try to take care of that first. That's not always possible, but when it is possible, try to do something about it. If it is not possible to do anything about it, then try to let it go a little bit. Again, not always easy, but if there's nothing that can be done about it, then it's not worth you spending emotional energy mulling over it. Something else is try to limit the distractions. I'm kind of preaching to the choir because I don't always do this. So turn off your phone and close your, email, close your Facebook. No messages, no updates coming in, nothing else trying to get into your time. And that can just help you to focus. Some people focus a lot better with just some simple music on. I generally go without, but maybe there is a particular song. I've been doing a lot of research and reading on brain, the way the brain works and kind of neuroplasticity and effectiveness and learning new things. And if you can train your brain to be calm or focused, given a certain scenario, then following that scenario can help you. For instance, if I train myself to draw and focus for when it's completely silent, then I'll be able to do that really well. Some people, it's like, if I'll start this playlist when I start drawing, and that actually helps me focus. Well, that's possible. Something else on that just occurred to me. if other stuff are bothering you and try to limit it. Do 30-minute just jumps, 30-minute segments. That's something that I routinely use, and that is set a timer. Just get a free timer on your computer or set one on your phone for 30 minutes, and that's when you really jam. That's when you draw, and it's not about doing anything else. You don't open a web page, you don't check your email, you don't do anything other than just draw. And that's for 30 minutes. At 30 minutes, you take a break. You get up, you stretch your legs, get a drink of water, use the bathroom, whatever. And you take a break for 5 or 10 minutes, come back down, do another 30 minutes. Your brain will stay fresher longer and be focused deeper if it knows it only needs to be focused really well for 30 minutes versus I'm going to sit down here for 3 hours. And if it faces 3 hours, it goes, I'm not going to give you 100% for 3 hours. I'll give you 60%. Well, it's going to be better to get 100% during a couple of 30-minute segments than only get 60% over the course of that same period. So hopefully that helps. It is quite dead, your Discord. Yeah, I figured it probably was. Let me see what I can do about it, and we'll talk about it on another stream. See if we can kick it a little bit. Swatches says, Vizonia, do you have any plans for doing any art booths at conventions? I would definitely like to meet one of my favorite artists. Yes and no. What I do want to do some art booths at conventions, but I want to do that after I have enough personal work and not just be commissioned work. I don't really want to go to an event like a Comic-Con or something and only have Magic the Gathering and Dungeons and Dragons and Applebot and stuff. I would like to be able to promote my own art. And that's also part of the whole Patreon thing I was talking to somebody recently about this, and I was like, you know what? I'd like to do some of these events, but I'd like it to be my own work. And I thought, well, what work is that? And I started looking, and I have very, very few good finished pieces of my own work that I've made in the last 10 years. And I was like, that's not right. Like I've got to change that. I've got to change that. I can't just not be doing my own stuff. That's why I got into this. And I'm not, getting away from all commissions and stuff, but I'm at least trying to bring a balance to it. So it's not everything that I'm doing is commission. Right now it's like 90%. So I'd like to balance that out. And as soon as I get enough, or at least, a 50-50 balance between some commission and some personal work, then yeah, I would love to do that. And I will take a look at what some of the big conventions are, and I will announce it, and I would be happy if you'd come by and say hi. Antonio says, hey, Clint, how are you? I am doing pretty well. Thank you, Antonio. How are you doing? I have a question. On average, how much does an illustration for MTG cost, and how much for Riot or Blizzard? Well, I've not done images for Riot or Blizzard, so I really couldn't tell you on those. I could tell you on MTG, but the contract says I cannot disclose that. That's like legal information. Legal business. If you could do, I'll try to say it a roundabout way. If you're in the U.S. And you could do a normal magic image, not like a planeswalker. If you could do a normal magic image most weeks of the year, you'd probably have a middle income. What do they call it? There's like low income, middle income, high income brackets. You'd have, middle income. I know it's very fuzzy, but sorry, that's the best I can do. Let's see, other comments. A big thing that helps is changing your environment. Like sometimes I would disconnect the Ethernet cable night before and have my tablet ready in front of me so it's easy to start painting. Yeah, it's the same idea as, prepping your gym bag the night before you go to the gym in the morning. If you have your shoes and your shorts and your shirt and, your water bottle all ready to go, it's going to be much more likely that you're going to actually go to the gym the next morning. And you're probably going to feel better about doing it than if you have to try to scrounge around and get everything ready, the morning right before you go out. So if you can have a good clean desk, if you can have your time already set aside, if you don't have to be watching something on the stove the same time you're trying to draw, if you're not multitasking, then that's going to be better for you. Okay, I don't see any more directed to me. And it's a little past 7. Let's see, I think. Yeah, even within like Magic, Blizzard, and stuff, there's definitely tiers of images. It's like marketing pieces usually make more lower images. Like even in Magic, a common card generally makes less than like a rare card, because the rare cards are going to get become more desirable, and they're probably going to be featured on the website and other places more, so that they want a higher quality to them. Yeah, so there's going to be some fluctuations in that too. Oh, also, I forgot to mention the Patreon. If you pledge, I'm sorry, I'm trying to promote this, but I'm excited about this. This is something, honestly, that I've been thinking about doing for over a year, is just doing my own Patreon. I don't even know if anybody's interested, but this original drawing that I did on toned paper with white pencil and black pencil with gold foil accents. It's under a plastic to protect it right now, which is the glare. It will be going out to somebody who pledges during the first month. And that means pledging by the 1st of July. That's 2 days, over the weekend. If you pledge over the weekend, then you will be entered to win this. I will ship it anywhere in the world. Of course, I will need your address, but I will let you know if you win. And then it will be random, and I guess I've not signed it, so I would sign it, and then I would send it to you. And it's just a really tight little portrait piece. So if you want to win that, then either level over on the Patreon. Gerald says, hello from the Philippines. Well, Gerald, thank you for joining from the Philippines. I've never been there, but hopefully it's got a good art community down there. All right, it looks like we've kind of ran out of questions, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up there. Thank you, everyone who joined out for this particular live stream and who came to watch the premiere of the newest Vibrance episode. And I will be seeing you guys out on the Facebook groups. And if you need to toss me a question out there, I will try to address it. If it's pertaining to a lot of Swatches stuff, I can't do like imagery views just on request, but I will do what I can. So I will catch you guys later. Thank you. Catch you next time.